Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for a lower body day, and we started the day off with squats. Things just didn't feel right under the bar today. Again, I noticed my bicep tendons felt a little bit inflamed today. Again, all the supine grip work, which makes me kind of question my position on that, because I used to say we probably shouldn't do too much supine work. It's probably not ideal for tendon health. But I've been doing a lot of it for months, right? Trying to bring the biceps up. So I may want to rethink that a little bit. It's minor. I noticed it last time when I went to deadlift on both arms, and I kind of noticed it again today. And I'm like, let me just skip deadlifts today. One thing I will note, I took my stance in just a hair narrower today, just to see how it felt or looked on the squats, and I noticed depth didn't go quite as easily. So I think I need to go back to the depth I was using the last couple workouts, right? Go back to the depth we were using, the stance with, because again, looking at this, this is all high. These squats are all high. So again, I know for me personally, the wide stance gives me very, very good depth, right, when I'm doing a low bar. So I'm going to take it back out a little bit wider next time. But again, it's one of those days where everything kind of felt off a little bit, right? Everything just felt a little bit off, and I'm like, I need to train anyways, and still move kind of the same weights. But again, just looking at the footage, because I haven't really gone through this footage till just now of the squatting. Yeah, it doesn't look ideal, and that's not what we want. Okay, the squats need to be deep. They need to look like how they looked last workout. All right, my Friday workout, everything looked nice and pretty and clean. All right, but look at this today, and it was weird because I felt like I was hitting depth in terms of the hips. In fact, my hips kind of got hit a little bit hard, but that's what happens, when we don't get that ideal angle. And again, I do like to just change the foot positions from time to time, just to see how different things feel at different points as I'm making changes. And again, when you look at this footage versus, say, Friday, yeah, Friday was definitely deeper, had a wider stance, and I felt stronger. So, no harm, no foul. At least we came in and did our squats. And I always tell people I very rarely have bad workouts, right? We usually don't. Usually for recovery zone point, that doesn't happen. Today is the closest I would say I've had to a bad workout in a while. And I figure, maybe once a month, we're going to have one of those workouts. For me, it's always a lower body one, to where things just don't feel right. They don't move right, And this was one of those. But here's the thing, the other stuff went really, really good. The leg extensions went good, got a deep burn, ended up getting more reps. I'm getting stronger and stronger at these, which also means I need to fix that squat back over, get that stance back to where I know we're good, right? I need to get that stance back to where I know we're good. None of this medium stance, high squatting, because that's for me. I either have to go really narrow and do a high bar, or I need to go reasonably wide when I do low bar. It's really kind of no in between for me, but I've done a 500 high bar on camera before. I've hit over 500 that way. But I feel like overall, though, I just get a lot more out of the low bar in terms of lower body development. Total lower body, not necessarily quad. And it tends to feel a little better on certain things. Certain joints. But yeah, when I go too narrow, I do notice my hips don't always like it. Just my hip structure. All right, calf raises. I went ahead and did 3 sets of all these supplemental lifts. And I think that's going to be what I'm going to do, especially with the squatting. I think I want to work up to doing 3 sets of squats after the training max each workout, and then I only have to worry about one set of deadlifts, and then come in and try to do 3 sets of these supplemental lifts, right? And just continue to progress at them the best that I can. But now that I'm going heavier again on the reverse hypers and reverse hyper machine, it's actually flowing a lot more smoothly. I'm feeling a lot of good stimulus with 500. I'm probably going to need to take these weights, keep pushing them up. The problem I run into is putting plates on the machine. Right, I like to keep it mostly loaded, but you start running out of space, and I've got plenty of blue plates, but it is the hassle of loading and unloading the machine sometimes. It really can be a bigger hassle than people realize. But, as long as I leave enough plates out to squat and deadlift, I can probably keep it largely preloaded and do pretty good there. The leg extensions, the reverse hypers, all of that felt really good today. So in spite of the squatting feeling a little bit off, and not really taking my ideal stance, and I do have to watch that. I've caught that at meets. I have to be careful of that historically. Like when I went a little too narrow stance, I got red lighted on an opener for depth back at the Texas State Championship, because of that. So I have to watch that. So I kind of have that stance range to where I cannot hit proper deep depth. And I either have to be inside of that range or outside of it. I can usually hit depth pretty good when I go nice and wide. Again, just my personal hip structure. And that's the thing I think people need to remember when it comes to specifically things like squat stance width. Hip structures vary so much in humans, and this has been studied, that in terms of joint angles, it's one of our biggest variations as a species, right? That hip socket angle it varies massively from person to person. So hitting the deepest squats possible, right? Hitting the deepest squats possible can be very dependent upon that structure. And for some people, it's going to be a real narrow stance. For some people, they can do it in an Andy stance. Some people it needs to be wider. But you're also going to have people on the extremes who can't hit depth at one of those two extremes. So just something to think about, as we're looking at those things. All right. But all of the rest of this went good. Just leg extensions, calf raises, reverse hypers done in a superset. Overall, all this felt good. Felt like I got a good posterior chain pump, good quad burn, good calf burn. Not so much a burn in the posterior chain, just a nice good pump. And again, the traction effect of the reverse hyper, which again I find is really useful given the amount of compressive work I'm doing axial loading these days, because most of these days I'm squatting and deadlifting and then doing the calf raises. The reverse hyper is just a nice way to finish, particularly if I make sure that my very last set of the exercises is the reverse hyper each time. We get that nice traction effect, which I personally feel really helps offset the axial loading in terms of recovery. Like if you're going to do a lot of squatting and deadlifting and you don't have a reverse hyper, I really don't know why. You need to get one. Even if you have one just to keep it home. It would be a wise idea. All right? People say, oh, I don't have the money or the space. Well, priorities. Figure out where your priorities are. Especially if you're an older lifter. You're over about 35 and you're doing a lot of squatting and deadlifting. I feel like the reverse hyper is indispensable. But I think in general, everyone should have one of these. I feel like every human being on the planet should have access to one of these. But there's not really much else to say about this workout. So I'm going to go ahead and wind this down. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys and gals next time.